Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive: to recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Phasers Set to Stun. In this ongoing series from a Film By podcast, we continue to show our love for every quadrant of the expanding Star Trek universe by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and much more. Plotting the course as always is your core Trek crew. I'm Scott Hoffman.
I'm David Burns.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
And in this episode, we're exploring a new frontier in the cinematic universe with the 2009 almost a reboot entry into the franchise J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. Released on May 8th, 2009, rated PG-13 for language, violence, and I guess one sexual situation. Written by Alex Kurtzman and Robert Orci, directed by J.J. Abrams. Although this movie has been out for a while, there still may be some who haven't given it a try. So, red alert, we're venturing into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen this film, please go watch and come back to join us. All right, crew, let's put on our sunglasses. It's time for lens flares on captain's chairs. I'm so glad we're getting into this movie because I've personally seen this countless times since it's been out. Seems almost fitting that we're talking about a movie that infused some fresh blood and vision into the Trek universe, especially since we're all excited to see the latest fresh vision come back as we get ready for the latest season of Strange New Worlds. All right, Wayne, let's break it down. Why don't you give us a summary of what this movie is all about?
In the year 2233, the USS Kelvin is investigating a mysterious lightning storm when the Romulan ship Narada appears and destroys them. The Narada's captain, the Romulan named Nero, has traveled from a future where his home planet of Romulus has been destroyed by a supernova and is bent on revenge against the Federation, who refused them the help they needed. 22 years later, Nero reappears, but this time Starfleet is prepared and has sent their newest ship, the USS Enterprise, to intercept it. Commanded by Captain Christopher Pike and ran by a fresh from the Academy crew, including cadets Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, they are all that stands in Nero's way of total destruction of Vulcan, Earth, and the entire United Federation of Planets.
And he yells a lot.
He yells a lot.
Nero likes to yell a lot. Thanks, Wayne. We've spent a lot of time between modern Trek and classic Trek, and this obviously falls somewhere in between. So, Dave, I'm curious, what were your first thoughts on this movie?
So, here's the interesting thing. So, we know that Star Trek was pretty much dead before this movie came out, right? There wasn't much going on in
There
that.
wasn't anything, yeah.
Nothing, yeah.
Yep.
So Paramount needed something new and fresh. Basically they need to start over that would revitalize and generate a new audience, yet still bring back, those who love Star Trek like us. And they did it. They and J.J. Abrams did that very thing with this film. I remember going to see this on opening weekend with some coworkers who were not Star Trek fans at all. And they walked out of that theater blown away on how much they loved this film. And not only this, but we got to consider something here too. We get two more films after this. Granted, the third one's not really
Not
that,
great.
but we'll get to there eventually. But this brings back a television series for us. We wouldn't have Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, even Picard, for crying out loud, if we didn't have the success of this very film. Yeah. So I'm glad it was very successful, but I loved this movie. I really did.
Wayne, what about you?
Well, just like David, I saw it on opening night. I actually went with my mother and saw it. I was kind of torn because it was a good film. It was a good film, I have to admit that. And I enjoyed it, but it didn't feel like Star Trek to me at the time. But I also understood that this is the film that we need at the time because Star Trek was dead and there had to be some way of bringing it back, and this was exactly it. So and to this day, I'm still a little conflicted about this first one. It's a damn good film, and I really do enjoy it, but it at times doesn't feel like Star Trek to me.
What are the aspects that didn't quite feel like Trek?
The action.
Okay.
I think that was it. It was too good. That's the best way to say it. It was too well directed.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of action, and it was all well done. It didn't feel like Star Trek because of that. Now, that sounds like me putting down the rest of Star Trek. It's not. This is them going on a bold new direction for the franchise, which was really, really needed. It needed new blood into it. It needed, new ideas so that people would come and watch Star Trek again, because it had faded to nothing back. What was it? 2005 was the last time we saw anything Star Trek. So, I understood everything that was being done, and I think it was a complete success and a great film. But it conflicts me in my head whether I like it or not. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head there, because that was the conversation the producers were having about this film when they were first creating it. They actually cut down a lot of the technical babble, all that kind of stuff, put more action into the film and narrowed it down, just calling it Star Trek, because they didn't want people who don't really know everything that comes before this to get confused by it, that think they had to see all of that to see this movie. So I see what you're saying. There's two sides of the sword here. It did have a lot of action that felt kind of out of place, but to me, I felt Star Trek was missing some of that in the past. And they added in this one, again, the lens flares and stuff I could have done without, for crying out loud. But beyond that, you're right. It was incredibly well directed by J.J. Abrams. It really is. The casting was perfect, in my opinion. I know we're going to get to that in a little bit, so I don't want to, talk about all of that. But this is what they needed for Star Trek, for a new audience, to make it successful, and it worked.
Yeah, I think a lot of the conflict with me at the time, this is just at the time, was the recasting. I guess I felt a little bit the way Star Trek fans felt back in 1987 when The Next Generation appeared. Who are these guys on screen, and why are they playing my favorite characters? Was I ready to accept them? Now, today I do. I totally accept them. But this was the first time that we've had any major recasts like this. And I'm going to go on record right now and say that I think the cast did a phenomenal job of recreating all the parts of all of them. They were great. It was hard at the time, but I look back now and I think they did a great job.
I'm specifically looking at you, Carl Urban, because holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm more in Camp Dave, I think, because there is no conflict. Like, I've watched this movie so many times. I know that I saw it early in the theater. I don't know if it was quite opening day, but I know it was very early. And as soon as I had seen it in the theater, I knew I wanted to own it. And I've watched it on repeat. It is just so well done. There are times when I have to look away from the camera or the screen because of the lens flares.
Yeah.
Which I think are interesting, but a little headache-inducing at times.
Yeah.
But the writing, the acting, the action, where this kind of falls into, like how it falls into the universe, was all very, very well done, very clever, I thought.
Even
and
the camera
it holds up
movements.
really, really well. Yes,
It does. It holds up extremely well.
Yes.
Even the camera movements of throughout this film, especially when the movie opens. I mean, for one thing, this is probably the best opening of any Star Trek film, in my opinion. It really is. And I know that's saying a lot, but it really is, because it pulls you in so fast, and it does not give you a moment to breathe until, you see the escape pods, it goes to the music, and you get the Star Trek title coming up. But that opening shot where you hear that whatever that sound is, the original Star Trek sound of that, what would you call that? When the camera opens up on the ship and the camera's just twisting around, and you just hear that ding.
Oh, like the
bridge
beacon
sound.
Yeah.
The beacon.
That'd be the beacon sound, because that was it was just so good and just pulls you in so quick, and just that camera angle, how it just twists and turns, and he did that several times throughout this film that were greatly used.
Well, and it's amazing proof of concept too, right? To say it is a time when we need some new viewers. It is a time when we need some new perspective. So we can prove that big Hollywood cast, big Hollywood director can can really kind of bring something new to the franchise and open up the door to say there's different ways to see Trek. And I think it's absolutely something that opens the door for Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks to say it doesn't have to operate within a specific kind of formula. I think it's something that's very accessible to new people with just a couple of sentences versus something like Undiscovered Country that we were just talking about recently would take a bit more. Versus this is we're in our universe. This is Earth's future. The main characters you need to know about are Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Uhura, Scotty, Bones, going down kind of a short list and their individual roles, and then just let somebody watch it and discover it, and they'll get it without a lot of explanation, which I think is really important. I do want to talk about this is a much younger cast than we're used to seeing, and I thought it was really refreshing. Would you say this is a good intro to the franchise if you're going to kind of start somebody on Star Trek?
For a modern audience, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, for modern, yeah.
Yeah. It's at least a sampling, right?
Yeah.
To see if they like it enough. There isn't necessarily a lot of investment that has to go into it in order for them to enjoy it. Heading up this younger cast, we've got Chris Pine as Jim Kirk. I think he fit really, really well into this with just the right amount of attitude and cocky. I loved seeing him kind of develop in this role. Would you say it's pretty fair?
Yeah, I think he had the best character arc of the whole film, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and going all the way back to the day he was born. I think his dad, so to speak, Chris Hemsworth, in his debut role, right?
Yeah.
Thor before he was Thor or anything else.
Yeah.
As George Kirk and his mom, Winona Kirk, played by Jennifer Morrison. That initial sequence blew me away.
Oh, absolutely did.
I love that opening.
Yeah.
As a dad, it hits the right emotional chords at the right times and gives him kind of an interesting arc or kind of an interesting reputation to live up to. And I think that helps to give people more of a gateway to understanding him. We've also got, rounding out the rest of the cast, I'll mention Simon Pegg next because he's one of my favorite parts of this.
Because he's Simon Pegg, because he's awesome.
I love him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He apparently didn't even audition for the role. He just got an email from J.J. Abrams asking if he'd like to do it. And he said apparently he would have done it for free or even paid J.J. to do it if he had not been offered a role. He dives in and does such an amazing job at this. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I love Simon Pegg. I mean, he's one of the few people who have done the in my opinion, the trio of great sci-fi series. Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who. He's done all three of them. I love his work.
Yep.
And Spaced. I still have to watch Spaced.
Spaced,
so
that's
good.
a great series.
That's good.
What are some other standouts in the cast for you too?
Oh, come on. I mean, we got to talk about Carl Urban. I mentioned him a
Yeah,
little
we
bit
do.
earlier.
Yes.
I'm telling you, he really took on the role of Bones, and I swear to God, DeForest Kelley was inside him when he was performing.
Yeah.
That scene when he gets onto the shuttle and meets Kirk for the first time,
Oh yeah.
his mannerisms, his facial expressions, his dialogue, everything was absolutely dead on DeForest Kelley. Like even his voice, like I swore it was DeForest Kelley. He was doing such an incredible job. It felt like he watched everything DeForest Kelley did over the years and just duplicated that in his performance, but still made it his own. And it was just so damn good. He is the one that blew me away. I mean, the whole cast is phenomenal. Do not get me wrong. But Carl Urban, man, did he just blow me out of the water with his performance.
Well, here's another one of those examples of how they reset the template for all these characters while staying true to them. Like we've seen in Strange New Worlds, we've seen Scotty, we've seen Kirk, we have yet to see Bones, but I'm pretty sure they're going to take some cues from Carl Urban in this, with wherever it goes. Wayne, what about you? Who stands out?
Oh well, I agree with Carl Urban. Let me bring up Zachary Quino, because he had a lot to go up against.
Yes, he did.
Leonard Nimoy was such an incredible performance. I mean, he was Spock, and he's also in the film as well, and that's a lot to live up to, and a lot of expectation from the fans. I think he did an incredible job, as Spock. Him and Carl Urban, I can see them. It's a recast, but I can see them as Spock and Bones. More than any of the other casts, and I think all of them were fantastic. But those two, they, like you said, it's like they had the spirit of the actors from before in them. They knew exactly what the job was, and they were perfect at it.
I agree.
Well, specifically for Spock, the writing and the performance have done so much more to give that character more emotional range and depth. I think there's a lot of what we see in Strange New Worlds, not to take from what we're seeing with the new interpretations, but knowing that they can get into that and a little bit more of the emotional conflict within Spock.
Taking on a role so iconic that is Spock. People who are not even into Star Trek know who freaking Spock is, okay? They do.
Yeah.
And for Zachary Quinto to take on a role that Leonard Nimoy has done for many, many years and has perfected it over those years, really had to make him feel like, holy crap, I need to do a phenomenal job on screen because of who I am portraying here. If I don't, I'm going to get crucified.
Yeah.
He would have, too.
Yeah, and he would have. You're right. But he did a phenomenal job. He knocked it out of the damn park as Spock.
He did.
Yeah. And I mean, considering he has Leonard Nimoy as Spock Prime, I guess, right there with him in such a supporting role. I love the fact that they incorporated that into the story to make sure that there's a little bit of that continuity. Somebody kind of passed the torch onto him. And I think it was handled really, really well.
I'm glad they did that too, because it would have been really hard for us Star Trek fans, our longtime Star Trek fans, to accept this film if it was rewriting everything that happened before. If if J.J. Abrams had decided, I'm going to undo everything, and let's say the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and all of it never took place, that would have taken fandom. He probably would have been massacred by the fandom.
Yeah.
But by including that little bit there, and by including the fact that this is more of an alternate universe, an alternate take, that was exactly what was needed to make everybody happy. It made me happy.
Yeah,
I'm so glad that you can watch this. You can watch these three films and accept it alongside what they call now the Prime universe.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a great idea to give it kind of a Back to the Future type of alternate reality as well. That it wasn't just a parallel universe, but it was a branch that still has roots in the standard canon. I think that was absolutely essential and a really, really smart move.
So Spock comes from what, a few years after Nemesis? Is that correct? Somewhere after that is when he comes back into this timeline?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what the year is, but it's definitely long after unification. Actually, I take that back. I do know what year. It was 20 years before, about 20 years after Nemesis, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there was I think it's in canon, the tie-in comic Star Trek Countdown.
Yeah.
Establish a bunch of things in the timeline. Apparently, it's years after Nemesis. I'm not sure
how long after Nemesis. I can't remember how long after Nemesis was Star Trek Picard. Was that 20 years?
Maybe it's been a while. Well, I've seen it. I think
it's 20 years, which
that sounds about right.
Yeah, so this would be probably not 20 years out. Excuse me, not 20 years after Nemesis. Probably about 5 years after Nemesis. Then.
Okay, that sounds more appropriate. Yeah.
So now I'm trying to kind of connect the dots and think about when Marty goes back to the Twin Pines Mall, so to speak. In Picard, was Romulus destroyed?
Yes. The events of this film were mentioned and went right alongside Star Trek Picard.
Interesting.
The events of Romulus destroyed, not the events of the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy stuff.
Right. Well, I read about so in Star Trek Countdown, we learned that Geordi LaForge helped design the Jellyfish, the ship that Spock is.
Oh, that's right.
flying.
Yeah, in the comic. Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And apparently the Narada ship
Hmm.
is using stolen Borg technology, um, which is how it's able to have the ability to regenerate um, as it acquires damage or whatever it is. So it was just interesting they kind of have that parallel, but that fits neatly into the main timeline so that we know
It does.
what has
Yeah,
happened.
because I'm going to my film facts thing real quick to mention one that's Nero's statement that the Federation had done nothing for Romulus when it was destroyed by the supernova, that was expanded in the first episode of Star Trek Picard, the episode Remembrance, where Picard mentions that the Federation had initially agreed to mount a large-scale evacuation to help with the Romulans being threatened by the supernova, but the Federation deliberately chose to abandon it because of the uprising on Mars with the androids.
Mm.
Interesting. Huh. I can't wait to start talking about Picard. But
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
It's great that this is all being wrapped in. Even though it's an alternate universe, it does connect to everything. I mean, we even have mentions to it, and they named it in Star Trek Discovery.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Um, a few other more than noteworthy cast members here. We were recently talking about Uhura with Women in Motion, and
Hmm.
Zoe Saldana does an outstanding job as Uhura, and she
does,
has
yes.
such a pivotal role in this. And I'm very, very glad that they wrote it in that way.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, it opens the door for Strange New Worlds, but the way that her communications roll, the way that her translations are so pivotal to this, and we see that expand a lot more in the rest of the Kelvin movies. Of course, we have to mention John Cho as Sulu.
Yep.
Obviously, we have Anton Yelkin, rest in peace, as Chekhov. They both did a great job. It's a great entry into those characters. And we've got a lot of other big names in here, not to mention Winona Ryder as Amanda Grayson. Very, very smart casting there.
Small role, but very powerful one.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was.
Along with the big names, we've got Eric Bana as Nero, with all his yelling glory.
Doesn't even look like him. Does not even look
No.
like him.
No.
You're right. It doesn't.
I enjoy his anger in this one a lot more than Hulk,
Oh
obviously.
yeah.
But I think he had an outstanding performance.
Yeah.
The one standout role for me in this is Bruce Greenwood as Pike.
Yeah.
This is one of the pieces of this movie that makes it such a great movie, in my opinion. His performance gives so much more to Pike. I think it opens up, obviously, the newest character iteration, but it does so much more for this character that originally in the OG series didn't have that much of a spotlight, and they made him so much
No,
more.
it didn't.
I love it.
One of the best lines in this film came from him when he was in the bar with Kirk after they had the fight.
Yep.
And he says, "Your father was the captain of the ship for 12 minutes. He saved many people, including your mother and yours. I dare you to do better."
Oh,
That
God.
was a phenomenal line and just hit home. It really did.
It is.
Goosebumps, man. Goosebumps. Every single time I think about that line, it is so well done.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And it gets him moving. I love it. So thank you, Bruce Greenwood, for giving us Pike.
That's right.
All right, let's take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we'll get into some behind the scenes stuff. And we're back. We're talking about the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek. Guys, let's talk about some behind the scenes tidbits. Just to start us off, I'll talk about the numbers. Their budget was around 150 million, which is more than 10 times the budget of the entire original series in 1966. It certainly made it back. The gross in the U.S. and Canada was more than 257 million. Made more than 75 million in the opening weekend, and the overall worldwide gross is 385 million. So I'd say
Very
it
impressive
did.
for a Star Trek film.
Yeah, it did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah,
That's
like
fair.
I said, Paramount got a grand slam out of this one, and this is what gave birth back to Star Trek.
Yes.
Yep. It also got the Academy Award for the first time. Brought the Oscar into the House of Star Trek for Best Achievement in Makeup. several other nominations, which made it the most for the series, tied with A Voyage Home. I was surprised to see that it was the first in the series nominated for Best Visual Effects. I don't know how you can't have that with Star Trek, but
That is surprising.
But the visual effects in this film were just phenomenal.
outstanding.
Man.
It holds up,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
I think
Like-
was this not the first time in Industrial Light and Magic everything was digital? Starships?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
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 So, and they did a phenomenal job with that because,
Oh,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love models. Do not get me wrong. But in this one, man, they just did such an incredible job. Granted, technology had gotten to the point that you could do a much better job. But just some of the things they did in this film, just, again, I'm going to use the phrase mind-blowing because it was.
Yeah, yeah, and it stands the test of time. Like I've watched this countless numbers of times, and I don't know of any place where there's anything that seems dated or old-fashioned. I love it. I think in terms of acting, there's a lot to be said for how much reverence they had for Star Trek. As much as they were making it something new, there's a lot of respect for the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly with Nimoy coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I had read that Robert Orci and Kurtzman and Abrams went to his house to ask him to come back on board. And they basically said, we can't make this film without you, and we won't make this film without you. And the case they had presented to him overwhelmed him and brought him back when he thought he would never come back before. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's correct. Yeah.
and it's perfect. It is. I mean, it's really is a love letter to Spock here.
Yeah.
And giving him all the credit that's due. And I love it. And some of his lines that he has throughout this film of giving nods back to his Kirk was just so well done and very respectful of Spock's relationship with Kirk, which helps the Kirk in this film realize what he needs to do, and it helps him grow up a little bit and forces him to become that captain that he becomes.
Yeah.
So without
Yeah.
that, none of this would have worked without Leonard Nimoy. So thankfully, they went and talked him into doing it, and he decided to do it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that I learned about this was the last line that Nimoy says, "Thrusters on full," was improvised. It's a great segue right back to the bridge when we see them move on, kind of, zooming into the future. But knowing that he had said that with the intention of kind of saying, like, you've got this.
Yeah.
Like, we're in good hands. Please move it forward. That you don't get a better endorsement than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know they were talking about bringing Nichelle too. I think she was going to play her as grandmother in a scene. As much as I would have loved to have seen her in this, I think that would have crammed it too much.
Yeah.
I feel like Leonard Nimoy was all we needed for the film, and it is, and that's why it works so well. Do not get me wrong; I would love to see Nichelle again as Uhura, or not as Uhura, but in a Star Trek as Uhura's grandmother. But right. I'm kind of glad they didn't go that route, to be honest with you.
That was actually, they had planned and they were going to do that. The only reason they didn't do that is because of the 2007 writer's strike. They wanted to write it, but they couldn't.
Yeah.
So they ended up having to drop that. Shatner was also they wanted Shatner back too. They had plans for him to be shown like as a recorded message that Spock would have showed the younger Spock, but of course, Shatner, he wasn't keen on the idea of just like a cameo appearance. He wanted more of a substantial role like Leonard Nimoy.
Right.
So they dropped that idea too.
I kind of feel like if we had Nichelle come back, it may have been confusing to some viewers because they would have expected that that's their Uhura. And that this is somehow the granddaughter of the Uhura Prime or whatever. So I'm glad they didn't
I think
do
you're
that.
right. Yeah.
But I was glad to hear that Nichelle and Zoe had worked together so closely on that role. And again, it seems like an endorsement of somebody kind of passing the torch to that next generation. Simon Pegg, true to form, wanted to make sure he was doing it right. I had also heard that he worked with his wife on his Maureen Pegg on his accent, and he had gotten so specific so his wife is from Glasgow, and he knew that Scotty was from a different part of Scotland, and wanted to bring more of the appropriate kind of sound to his accent. So it's kind of a mix of both accents that he brought into it, which I wouldn't know the difference myself, but that he knew the investment that was needed to bring this full circle. I love hearing those kind of. What are the kind
One
of
thing I
behind
want
the
to bring
scenes?
up too. Oh, well, I want to bring up the fact that we got to remember that this was the last Star Trek appearance of Majel Barrett.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that we have to mention that she was the voice of the Enterprise computer, as she had been for many, many decades on it, and she completed her work just 2 weeks before she passed away.
Yeah.
So she never actually got to see the finished film, but I'm so glad that she was able to put her own stamp on this film. I found this rather fascinating that J.J. Abrams, he wasn't really sure if he wanted to direct this film. He kept going back and forth whether he wanted to do it, didn't want to do it. He wanted to see the script. But he was convinced to actually do the job by his wife, Katie McGrath, and Steven Spielberg, who had read the script and said he was very impressed with it and said he should take this.
Well, thankfully he did.
Yeah, I'm glad he did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Spielberg was on the set too. He actually was on the set for a few days during when they were filming on the Enterprise set, and he actually helped Abrams with some of the action in a few of the scenes.
Let's not forget about the cameo by Tyler Perry.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a surprise, but
It was.
It was a welcome surprise.
Yeah, I found it amusing. I heard that when he was giving one of his lines, he kind of messed it up and said "cut," and he realized, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm
Right.
not the director."
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's also a connection between beers and engineers in this one,
Yeah, there is.
right?
Yeah.
Parts of it were filmed in a Budweiser factory.
Yeah.
It's hard not to see that now.
It
when
is,
they're
you're
running
right.
through engineering, and it's kind of like, were they?
They make
Every
a beer
once in a while,
here.
just get a tap and
Right. Well, why not? I mean, that would have been. It's a perfect setting, so why not use it to your advantage?
might as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Any other behind the scenes facts?
Our good old friend Ben Burt, who has done a ton of Star Wars stuff, as we know, for the sound effects, was the sound effect technician for this film. Another amusing thing, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but did you know the motorcycle sound that Kirk has is the Jetsons car?
Oh, that's so
yeah.
cool.
That's right.
Nice.
That is so cool that they used that.
It is a nice ride.
It is. Very nice, right? And he gives it away, too. Here.
Yeah, that's true.
Cheers.
That's true. Wayne, anything else?
Other than the fact that the writers used a lot of inspiration to not only just past episodes of Star Trek, but they also used a lot of information from some of the novels, which for years, Gene Roddenberry never considered any of the novels continuity, but the two writers here decided to bring in some of the elements from it, especially from this fantastic book that I remember reading as a kid called Spock's World. A great book if you can find a copy of that. Get it up. That tells a lot about Spock's past and history, and it matches a lot that you see in this film. And I'm glad that they brought some of those elements in, because some of them are fantastic.
That's good. I'm always glad when they're able to tie that together.
I do, too.
I think there's going to be a lot of those that we're going to be talking about in the future
Mm-hmm.
as we kind of start to chase those down. All right. Well, I think that covers it for behind the scenes. Let's talk about favorite moments. I'm sure there are many.
There's too
Dave?
many. How am I supposed to pick one? There's so many.
Yeah.
Clearly, the one I talked about, Pike's line, is like among my favorite of this whole thing. Leonard Nimoy in the cave with Kirk, when you get his introduction to each other, when he's getting "I am and always shall be your friend," he uses that line to Kirk there. Obviously, that Kirk doesn't understand what he's saying, but to us as Trekkies, as Star Trek fans, put a smile on your face, because you know where that was coming from. And it's very much appreciated when they do that. But the other thing that I absolutely loved about this film is, first off, the score for Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal score, and I'm sure we'll dig into that in a little bit. But the other one is the action-packed sequence that we get at the end, the big fight. When the Enterprise gets hidden somewhere, you don't, by I think it was Saturn, one of the moons, and when it comes up out of the that dust or whatever it is, phenomenal shot. But all of this is going on, and you're getting the torpedoes being launched after Spock has stolen the ship, and Nero fires everything at him, and then out of nowhere, the Enterprise comes in and just opens up firing and knocks out all the torpedoes. You have all this action going on. The music is hitting right when it needs to hit. That whole sequence was phenomenal, man. And I just love that. And every time I see that, I'm on the damn edge of my seat every time.
Well, especially as you mentioned, like they have this volley of phaser blasts that are supposed to take out these itty bitty torpedoes aimed at this little ship, and it hits everyone with precision. But I always kind of hold my breath a little bit. Like, one sneaks through, right? Like, two probably sneak through, but they get it down. They probably have Dr. Crusher on weapons. Any one of those. Wayne, what about you? What's one that stands out for you?
Oh, you're right. There is so much in this film to like. I think the highlights are definitely the opening and everything with the USS Kelvin. That's always been one of my favorites, because you're right, it is one of the best openings of a Star Trek series. But I really like the pacing and the action on the platform, the space platform in the Vulcan scene. I always thought that was a really impressive middle scene, action scene for the film. But just see the interactions between the characters, especially the whole Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and the scene with old Spock and Kirk. And of course, like you mentioned too, the music. I think the music is phenomenal.
Yeah, I like the Dave. You were mentioning the kind of meeting between Spock Prime and Kirk. It's interesting how the mind meld gets a little bit more depth in this as well, because when they end it, there's kind of that backlash on Kirk.
Yeah,
that he talked about. Emotional transference is part of it. We talked about that in an uncomfortable way in Discovered Country. We've talked about it in many different times. I think it's interesting how it adds that depth, that it really is a sharing. It's not necessarily just reading somebody's mind or telepathy. It's really a joining of them, which gives that a lot more depth.
I want to, Scott, before you say yours, I really want to give an honorable mention that, first off, there's a lot of comedy in this, but it didn't override the action and the drama that was going on. But one of the things that I freaking laugh every damn time it happens is McCoy, when he keeps giving a Kirk a shot. He's like, quit it! And he keeps doing it. It is so hysterical, and I laugh every damn time.
I'll see it and raise you honorable mention for just one line. Are you out of your Vulcan mind? Like, how he puts a little bit of F on Vulcan. It's pitch perfect. Yeah, and I love that sequence, and the fact that Uhura is able to understand him when he's got numb tongue, and she's able to understand what he's trying to say. I Dare You to Do Better gives me goosebumps. The opening on the Kelvin gives me goosebumps. It makes me emotional. I'll just admit it. The one that I love to see, it brings a new smile to my face every single time, is the intro of Scotty. That he is just on this desolate rock because he tried to prove his theory of transwarp beaming on Admiral Archer's prize Beagle, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. That was a nice Easter egg there. Yep. But the fact that once he finds out they're from the future, he says, "Oh, well, that's fantastic. Do they still have sandwiches there? I'm still hungry." Like, the comedic timing and the delivery of that kind of stuff, it's just fantastic.
Yep.
There's one more that I just want to mention, and again, it's a small one, but when Sulu leaves the parking brake on.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because I had a note about that.
Yep.
It's because of his mistake they live.
Yes.
So that's huge.
Subtle but smart.
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I was going to mention that earlier and I completely forgot. But good job bringing that up. When I saw that again the other night, I'm like, holy crap! It's because of him they live, because they fall behind the rest of the fleet.
Yep. There's another little subtlety there, and I don't know if it's an intentional joke or a knowledgeable joke from Pike, where he says, "Is the parking brake on?" I don't know if he's meaning to say the external inertial dampers are still on. which is what Spock says, but he's like, yeah, that's it. Sorry. Let's go.
Let's go.
And the controls for this, it's a lot more tactile than I'm used to seeing. Like when he kind of moves that lever forward to get them, on their way. It's reminiscent of the Millennium Falcon's hyperdrive that they engaged to go at light speed. Making all those kind of little tactile additions to this, I think, gives it a lot more of a modern spin. All right. Well, let's take another quick break. When we come back, let's talk about Michael Giacchino and the score. All right, we're back. We got to talk about one of the most important aspects of this. Wayne and Dave, I know you're going to run with it, so I'm just going to say a quick note. We've got Michael Giacchino on the score. He won an Oscar that year for Up. I know him for The Incredibles, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, the Spider-Man Tom Holland franchise, Rogue One. Of all things, I'll just give honorable mention to the Disney's Gargoyles, the Sega Genesis video game. Apparently he was involved with that. This guy is in so many places in some of my favorite things. But what are your thoughts on the score, Dave?
Well, before we talk about that, the one thing that really helps him too is he'd already been working with Abrams before this, because he did Lost, Alias, Fringe. Right. He did a bunch of television with J.J. Abrams that he produced. So when you have somebody that's this freaking talented, you're going to bring him with you no matter what you do. And thankfully he did, because holy crap, this score is phenomenal in this film. When that piece, first off, when the film opens up, you already know you're in for a treat for the score, because when it's rolling, you're going, oh my God, here we go. We're going to get into something heavy. And then you get all that action that happens there at the beginning. And then when that's all finished, the pods are escaping, and the music is starting to swell and swell and swell. And then you get the Starfleet symbol, coming around, and it becomes Star Trek. That just, chills when that music hits. Yeah. Because it is so freaking well done. And throughout the entire film, whenever you needed music that would just want to make you feel emotion or anything, he nails it. And it doesn't go overboard. It's perfectly fitting for everything that happens in the film. I love that we get the original Star Trek music at the end with the credits rolling. I think that was phenomenally well done. It's good for us Trekkies to get that kind of love at the end. But there's another piece that I absolutely love, and that is when the Enterprise fires at Nero's ship and destroys it. And you get that chorus going. And I've said many times on a podcast and how much I love when a chorus is used and used properly. And he used it so well here when that happens. And there's so many other parts of this film where the music just stands out. And I'm sure Wayne's going to hit on those that I'm overlooking right now. But it's just phenomenally well done. I know, Wayne, you're a big Jerry Goldsmith fan, and he has done a phenomenal job over the years. James Horner has done a phenomenal job over the years. And we've talked about our love of the scores for all the Star Trek films. But when Paramount went to J.J. Abrams and them and says, hey, we need a really good Star Trek film. This is what we need to bring back an audience. J.J. Abrams knew he needed to bring the music too, not just the story. He needed somebody who's going to be able to handle this music and do it well. That's going to blow your audience away, and that's exactly what Michael did.
Yeah, I agree. I love Jerry Goldsmith's music, but this is new Star Trek. This is completely new. This is a whole different look, different reboot, and they needed a different sound. And of course, bringing in Michael was perfect. It's such a powerful score from beginning to end. From the action sequences to the quiet, somber pieces that he's written. It definitely has, I believe, the largest orchestra that they ever used on a Star Trek film. It was 107 pieces with a 40-person choir. I love the choir too. Very, very unique, but very like his music. And he didn't forget what came before. We got Alexander Courage's theme at the end, but we also get very subtle homages to both Jerry Goldsmith and James Horner. If you listen, they're there.
Yep.
which he was fans of both of them. It's not surprising that he would want to, sneak a few of their sounds, their signature themes into. It's just the perfect soundtrack for this film and for Star Trek. And I'm glad that he did this. I'm glad that he went on to do the other two films. And, of course, he hasn't been completely forgotten. He also came back to do Star Trek Prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still very much into with the Star Trek universe. This score has been released a few times on CD. It's great. It was released back when the film first came out by Very Sarah Band, and then they released a year later in the deluxe edition for their CD club, which contained the complete score. It was a very interesting set too, if you can find a copy of it. It looked like a book. It was a 28-page book that had the two CDs inside of it on the inside cover. And it was larger. It was about the size of like a Blu-ray. But they made a big mistake in that they forgot to overlay the choir on the pieces. So
I don't know.
Yeah. So if you do have a copy of the book form of the deluxe edition, you're missing some of the music. You're missing a lot of the choir. But they did. I think it was a few years ago. They re-released it again, just as a standard, as a download only, and it is the correct version. So if you get the download, you can get that. But if you can find a copy of that, it's interesting to listen to it without the choir. If you can find a copy of that booklet form that came out in 2010, get a hold of it, but you're going to pay a pretty price because that sold out within days. Sure. I was very, very lucky to get a hold of a copy of it. Great score. If you love soundtracks, if you love Star Trek, if you love his music, which, Rogue One is fantastic. Go out and buy this.
And like I say, it is it's a great listen. I listen to it every now and then, because it's just a powerful score.
Yeah, and very approachable. Again, I think it's one that could appeal to a broader audience.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how he uses silence throughout in very interesting ways. Now I'm kind of curious to hear that soundtrack without the chorus, because there's unintentional silence.
Right.
And I wonder how that would play. But
it reminds me, as we're talking about the score, we've had a few movies where you get that shuttle that's arriving to the Enterprise, and you're getting that music where you see the Enterprise for the first time. Mm-hmm. So it's been done 2 or 3 times, probably more than that, that I'm forgetting about. But they do it again here in this movie with this crew that we're getting to know, and Michael's score here is just beautiful. When Bones is telling Kirk to look out the window. And as they're approaching the Enterprise, and that music again is just swelling here, man, it's just epic.
Well, I think there's another part that's a little bit, I guess, kind of somewhat out of character for a Star Trek movie, I would say. Works really well and still holds up is the bar scene music.
Yeah.
It's got a great flow to it, and I love the fact that there's it's a subtlety, but when Uhura is walking into the bar, we're following her. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment where she kind of sidesteps a table and kind of swoops to the side, and the music just follows her flow through the club effortlessly. I love that part of it. Yeah.
I want to go back to one thing that Wayne had mentioned earlier. He said that Michael was inspired. He listened to James Horner. He listened to Jerry Goldsmith. I found a quote from Michael who said, "I think my writing has an old-fashioned feel to it for whatever reason. I'm just so influenced by the music that I listened to growing up, a lot of it out of the 60s, so it has a natural tendency to feel like it's from another era." So, he studies music, and, he grew up with those, famous composers, Wayne, that we love to listen to. So he clearly takes that into consideration when he's composing music, and it really comes off on screen when he does that.
Yeah, because a lot of composers forget that that music is a very important part of the film, and a lot of times when they write scores, they forget that, and it kind of fades into the background. There's no themes. There's nothing that the audience is going to remember. Not in this case. It's got a very powerful, very memorable theme that when you walk out of the theater, you remember it.
Yep.
Yeah, Dave, I love what you brought up, because it's another aspect of legacy that carries through this, right? Reverence for where they've been, but seeing the potential to where they could go in the future. So I'm glad that folds into every piece, including the score. All right, well, it's time for Easter eggs.
Wayne's favorite part.
Wayne's favorite parts. Yep.
Well, you would think that with a whole reboot that there wouldn't be very many Easter eggs, but believe me, there are quite a few of them.
Yeah, there is.
Yep. Some of the ones that stood out to me, using the Kelvin as a salt shaker. It's kind of a subtle Easter egg. After that speech, it's a nice little punctuation where he's kind of, reminders of this are all over Kirk's world. And he takes a broken ship and, pours it out. I was surprised to hear that we get Will Wheaton, who played Wesley Crusher, adding some dialogue for the Romulans on Nero's ship.
Yep.
That is a great little added bonus there. Wayne, what else did you get?
Well, like I said, there's quite a few of them. To start off, there's a Tribble in this film. Of course, it's Star Trek. There's got to be a Tribble somewhere.
Of course.
It is sitting in a little cage on Scotty's desk at the Delta Vega outpost. Everything was redesigned for this film, but one thing I want to point out is the new design for the communicators. Props master Russell Bobbitt, he worked with the engineers at Nokia and to create a prototype which cost the film $50,000 to make.
Oh boy! Wow.
When the cadets are assigned to their various ships just prior to the destruction of Vulcan, one of the cadets, Fugleman, he is assigned to Regular One, which we are very familiar with what that station is. If you saw Star Trek 2, on Delta Vega, Scotty mentions that he had. We brought that up, didn't we? We talked about Jonathan Archer.
No, go ahead. Talk about the Beagle. Everybody loves it.
Yes, we love the Beagle.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Scotty mentioned that he had used Admiral Archer's prized Beagle to test his long-distance transporter theories. This was confirmed by the writers that they are talking about Jonathan Archer. That would mean that Archer is still alive at the time of this movie, which would make him about 145 years old.
Oh, young. Now, that's young.
That isn't impossible because if you guys remember in Encounter at Farpoint, Dr. McCoy appears in there and he's 137 years old. So it's firmly established that humans live a lot longer than they do now.
Yeah.
Talking about that bar scene, Uhura orders 2 Cardassian sunrises, and this makes it the first reference to the Cardassians in a Star Trek production that was set in the 23rd century.
In classic Budweiser.
That's true.
Product placement.
Yeah.
Another little thing it's definitely a blink you miss it. When Kirk climbs out of the shuttle on Delta Vega, if you look at his backpack, it reads NCC 1701D.
Interesting.
This was the first Star Trek film to be released in IMAX, although it wasn't filmed for it. And of course, as you said, it was also the first film in the franchise to win an Oscar. Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Now, let me close this with what I usually talk about. There was a huge push by Paramount to market this new Star Trek film. They really wanted people to know that Star Trek was back and it was different. So there was a heck of a lot of tie-in merchandise for this film. So much that I'll never be able to mention it all, but let me bring up some of the highlights of this film. Of course, there was the usual novelization, this time written by Alan Dean Foster, which were actually rather surprising. He had written a lot of the novelizations for the animated series, as well as being one of the writers for Star Trek the Motion Picture. IDW Comics produced a prequel comic that you mentioned called Star Trek Countdown that led up to the release of the film, and then afterwards a 6-issue comic adaptation of the film. The toy license was again awarded to Playmate Toys, which produced action figures for the film of all the main characters, along with old Spock and Nero, as well as prop toys, play sets, and ship models, just like their 90s line. It was a fantastic series that they did. And they also even did 12-inch figures to go along with it. A few of the other properties that was released, Rittenhouse Archives produced collectible cards. T-shirts were made by a company called Junk Food. Video game, which was called Star Trek DAC, was released by Naked Sky Entertainment. Burger King got into the game too, promoted a kids meal tie-in for the film, making it the first time that Burger King had anything to do with Star Trek, and it was the first time that any of the fast food chains had marketed Star Trek since McDonald's did their Happy Meal for Star Trek the Motion Picture back in 1979. The commercials that Burger King did were filmed on the Enterprise set, and were directed by Dan Meidel, who was the cinematographer for this film. There were a number of Kellogg's products that offered Star Trek merchandise and memorabilia, either by mail or were included right in the package.
Yeah, Wayne, in terms of merchandising, one of the pieces that I really love that they put together when the DVD Blu-ray set came out, they had various pieces of the Enterprise itself that you could assemble into a display piece, and the saucer section is actually where it holds the DVD Blu-ray set. So I thought that was kind of a clever way to do that.
That's cool.
There's one thing that I want to mention. We had some unfortunate news recently. We had lost author Peter David, who has done quite a bit for the Star Trek world. So we want to dedicate this episode to the memory of Peter David. Peter, thank you for all that you've done for Star Trek, but many other franchises, not to mention the Hulk, Young Justice, one of my favorite animated treatments. Wayne, there are several things that you've read from Peter David over the years, right?
Oh yeah, I mean he was a very well-known name in Star Trek circles, especially for his novels. He wrote the novels Imzadi, Q and Law, Q Squared. All of those I read back when they were first released.
Same here.
As well as he created and wrote the Star Trek New Frontier series for Pocket Books, which was extremely popular back in the 90s. I remember his run on the DC Star Trek comic back in the 80s and the 90s. It was phenomenal. That was one of the best Star Trek series that I've ever read. It's sad that he passed away. I never got a chance to meet him. I always wanted to. He wrote so much in comics, as you mentioned, Incredible Hulk. He also wrote Aquaman, Sensational Spider-Man, Captain Marvel for Marvel Comics. Very well-received runs on those comics. He worked on TV series. He wrote for Ben 10, Young Justice, Space Cases, and Babylon 5 and its spin-off Crusade. He was a major and a regular guest at many sci-fi conventions and comic conventions around the country. Will be sorely missed by everyone. It was just a wonderful talent, and I'm just really saddened to hear of his death. Great talent. Rest in peace, Peter David.
Yeah. And I mean, as we're talking about this Star Trek 2009 movie being so accessible and kind of approachable and possibly having a broader appeal, I think that'd be true of his novels as well. Especially Q and Law and some that incorporate a little bit more of that humor. So maybe we'll have a chance to talk about that in the future.
I can remember when The Next Generation, was airing, and I was wanting to fill in voids and gaps, and his novels were phenomenal for that. They were written so well, like you were watching an episode. They were written that good. It's quite a loss to a lot of industries and to us here at Star Trek. Phaser set to stun. Rest in peace, Peter David.
And if you have the chance, go check out one of his works, whether it's on television, in comics, or in a book. And as always, we want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us for another one of these voyages. We're going to be, this is the first but not the last time we're going to be talking about the Kelvin Timeline. Dave and Wayne, always thank you, gentlemen. Love to chat with you.
Love to be part of this bridge. Love it.
It's a lot of fun.
And just remember, our hailing frequencies are always open for you to share your thoughts and questions on Facebook, Instagram, and those favorite social channels. You can find us online at A Film by a Podcast for articles and episodes that stream for free. Email us at afilmbyapodcast@gmail.com. And if you're looking for more exclusive content and swag, send Latinum our way through Patreon. See you next time for another episode of Phasers Set to Stun. All right, we'll dive right in. It's usual blah, blah, blah. Wayne, are there any details that you cover in your synopsis, like released on, rated, whatever?
Oh, no, I just...
written by?
His synopsis is going to be Space, the Final Frontier. No, kidding.
So there's this guy,
That's it.
and he flies a ship. Some other people, they shoot.
They shoot things,
Good.
go on adventures.
And the stars, and there's a
space.
war going on. And, wait.
They go on a trek or something.
Something like that, yeah.